Hi you guys, I am ready for lesson 5 of module 13. So get your math books and a pencil and open up to page 369. So our lesson today is about expressing whole numbers as fractions. So up until this point, we have been working with how to use fractions to represent parts of a whole or parts of a group, how to write fractions on a number line. So now today we're going to take a whole number and write it as a fraction, which is going to be pretty cool. All right. At the top of the page, it has our I can statement. It says, I can draw visual models to show how to write fractions that name whole numbers. So, like I said, we are naming whole numbers, but using fractions to describe it. Oh, I know it's like, what? How are we gonna do that? But you'll see. And then it says to draw visual models. I think visual models are really helpful, especially with fractions. It really helps us really see what's going on and just kind of help us understand all the pieces and what we're naming. So here we go. We'll get started on the Spark Your Learning. It says, Mrs. Snow's class has 8 bags of flour. Each bag weighs 1/4 pound. Show how many 1-pound sacks of flour the class can fill. So I am trying to discover how many, or I'm trying to show how many 1-pound sacks of flour the class can fill. So the information that I have that I'm going to use is that they have 8 bags of flour and each bag weighs 1/4 pound. Okay. So now I'm going to draw this out. I'm going to draw 1 bag of flour and I'm going to write 1/4 on it. Okay, so this is 1 bag of flour. It's 1/4 pound. Then I'm going to add another 1/4, which is the same size, like that. Then one more 1/4. So how many bags of flour have I drawn so far? Well, if each bag weighs 1/4 pound and I have 1, 2, 3 of them, I have 3 bags of flour so far. And I need to get to 8 bags. So I'm gonna keep drawing. Now I'm gonna stop right here because I have drawn 4 bags of flour, and I'm gonna pause because it says show how many 1-pound sacks of flour can the class fill. Well, this right here, this is 1 whole pound because I have 4/4 pound. So this is going to be 1 sack because a sack is 1 pound. So imagine this situation. Imagine all these bags of flour, they're a little bit smaller, and so I'll put this little one, little one, little one, little one, and I'll put that into 1 sack, and that sack is going to be 1 pound of flour. In that sack are 4 bags of flour. Are we following along? So they don't have just 4 bags of flour, they have 8. So I need to draw 4 more. Oops, I'm gonna redraw, it got a little wonky, but that is okay. Okay, so I drew another 4 bags of flour. 1 bag, 2 bags, 3 bags, 4 bags. And I know that those are bags because they are each 1/4 pound. So now this total is another sack of flour. And my question was, show how many 1-pound sacks of flour the class can fill. So how many do I have? How many pounds of flour do I have? 1 pound, 2 pounds. So the class has 2 pounds of flour. In other words, they have 8 bags that are the size of 1/4 of a pound. Okay, so cool. All right. So this part says, how could you write the answer to the problem as a fraction, the turn and tuck? So instead of saying 2 pounds of flour, I could say I have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bags of flour that are the size of a 1/4. So how many pieces are of a whole? 4 pieces in the whole, and I have 8 of them that are all the same size. So I have 8/4. So cool. So this could be 8/4, and that is the same as 2 wholes. I know this is like so mind-blowing right now. So let's go to the next page and see if we can work out some more problems. See if it'll help us understand it. Because I totally understand if we just did the Spark Your Learning and you were like, Miss Lundquist, what are you talking about? You'll see, I promise. Okay, I'm on page 370. Number 1, it says, Tristan makes circular pans of cornbread and cuts them into thirds. How can you show 1 pan of Tristan's cornbread cut into thirds? How can you show 2 pans cut into thirds? Well, let's start with the 1. So our pan is a circular pan. So I'm going to draw a circle, okay, as best I can. Now, if it's into thirds, that means there are how many pieces? 3. So to draw thirds in a circle is a little bit tricky. I usually start in the middle and I do a straight line to the center. Then I stop and I do a little kickstand out, kickstand out. Basically, it's an upside down Y. It looks like a peace sign. So now I have 3 pieces. I'm doing the best drawing that I can. So this is 1 pan of Tristan's cornbread cut into thirds. How many pieces do I have? 1, 2, 3. So now it asks, how can you show 2 pans cut into thirds? Well, I already have 1. I'll just draw 1 more, so I have 2. So again, I do my little upside down Y, my peace sign to do thirds. Ta-da! So now I have 2 pans of cornbread cut into thirds. Now remember, thirds means that there are 3 pieces in the whole. Part B asks, how many thirds are in 2 pans? There's a third, 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 there's a third. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 thirds. So that's what I wrote down, 6 thirds. How can you write this amount as a fraction? Now remember, the bottom number, our denominator, tells us how many pieces are in one whole group. So how many pieces are in one whole group? 3, so that goes on the bottom. How many of those thirds do I have all together? I have 6. So what whole number does the fraction equal? 6 thirds equals my 2 pans of cornbread. Now, this is really cool because you'll learn that fractions are really division equations. I think I've mentioned this before in class. If we do 6 divided by 3, we will get 2. 6 divided by 3 equals 2. And I just did it with fractions as well. Amazing, right? So cool. Now, could I do the same 3/6? Is 3/6 2? No. I have to do the top number divided by the bottom. So it'd be 3 divided by 6, which is 1/2, not 2. That was a little side note. All right, number 2. How can you name the points located on the number line using fractions and whole numbers? Complete the number line to name the points. Well, let's look and see what I already have. It's labeled 0, it labeled 1/2, and then it labeled 1. Now, if this is 1/2, that means from 0 to 1, I have 2 pieces. Remember how we did fractions on a number line yesterday? That's this, the same thing. So what would this one be? 2 over 2. Same thing. This would be 3 over 2. It doesn't ask us to do this, but we're Superstore students, so we're gonna do it. This is 3 over 2. Remember, I have one piece that's sized 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves. This will be 4 halves. So 4 over 2. Okay. 5 over 2. We're being Superstar students and writing it even though it doesn't ask us to. And then this is 6 over 2. Now let's go to the bottom and see the whole numbers. This is 0, half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3. And I can double check my work and go 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So good, we did amazing. So it says, part A asks, how many equal lengths are there from 0 to 1? How many? 1, 2 equal lengths. 2 equal lengths, so write that down. Part B says, what whole number and fraction represents 4 equal lengths? That was right here. We have 4 equal lengths. So that was 4 over 2, which is the same as the whole number 2. I'm going to write the and symbol in between. What whole number and fraction represents 6 equal lengths? Well, we went all the way to 6 equal lengths. That would be 6 over 2, which is the same as 3 whole groups. Okay, is it starting to click? Starting to come together? All right, number 3, it says, Tim uses 4 tortilla halves to make tortilla chips. Rita uses 9/3 to make her tortilla chips. How many whole tortillas do they each use? All right, so draw to show each fraction. So I'm gonna draw Tim's tortilla chips first. So Tim uses 4 tortilla halves. Now, when I see the word halves or half, I think of 2. So in a whole, there will be 2 parts. So I'm going to draw 4 halves. So then here's my tortilla. There's 1/2. There's 2 halves. 3 halves. 4 halves. So how many tortillas did he use? 2. Okay, now let's do Rita. Rita uses 9/3. Okay, so when I think of thirds, I think of 3. So we're dividing it into 3 equal parts. So this one, we have, I'm gonna do the best drawing I can. That's a third. I just did a V and then did a little loop, and then another V and a loop. Uh-oh, it's gonna give me, I'm gonna make this a little bigger. Oh, and then that's supposed to connect all together. Okay, I'm gonna redraw that. That was not very good. This is hard. Okay, so what I did is I just drew a Y. So this is 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. I'm going to draw that again. I'm going to do the Y again. That's 4/3, 5/3, 6/3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 7/3, 8/3, and 9/3. It's hard to draw thirds. Do you know? Shh, shh, shh. Stop barking. Sorry. So now I'm going to say, the question asks, how many whole tortillas do they each use? Tim uses 2 tortillas, and Rita uses 1, 2, 3 tortillas. Part A says, what fractions represent Tim's chips and Rita's chips? How many whole tortillas does each fraction represent? Well, Tim divides his into halves, so the bottom number is 2. And how many halves does he have? That's funny. Halves does he have? 1, 2, 3, 4, which equals 2 whole tortillas. Okay, then Rita, hers are divided into thirds, so my number on the bottom is 3. How many thirds does she have? She has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 thirds, which is the same as 1, 2, 3 wholes. Okay, so part B says, how many whole tortillas do they each use? You would write, Tim uses 2 whole tortillas and Rita uses 3 whole tortillas. All right, the Turn and Talk says, without drawing a picture, what strategy can you use to write 18/6 as a whole number? Did you remember my hint that I gave for this one? 6 divided by 3 equals 2. Fractions are division equations. So if it says 18/6, it would be 18 divided by 6. And if we know our math facts, we know that 18 divided by 6 is 3. So our whole number is 3. We didn't even have to draw a picture. We just divided. All right, let's do the check understanding. It says, number 1, each circle is 1 whole. Write a whole number and a fraction for the parts that are shaded. So the whole thing is shaded. Now, how many parts are there in each circle? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. We can count them. We can only count them if they're divided into the same number of parts. Like Tim's and Rita's, we couldn't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, we could not count them because they are not the same size. We can say that all together they used 5 tortillas, but we can't say that they used 13 equal pieces, because are they equal pieces? No. Tim used halves, Rita used thirds. Okay, that was a little side note. Lots of side notes today. So this one, they're both sixths, divided into 6 parts. So how many parts do I have shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 parts that are the size 1/6. Remember, 1/6 is our unit fraction. So basically what I'm asking is, how many of these do I have? You just count them, 12, 12/6. So now what's our whole number associated with 12/6? Well, I have 1 circle here, 2 full circle there. So 2 is the same as, right? Our equal sign means is the same as, 2 is the same as 12/6, 12/6. Ooh, do we feel so great about this lesson? So exciting. This is like major big kid stuff. All right, number 2. Peter uses 8 1/2 fraction circle pieces to make whole circles. Show the whole circles that Peter makes. So, he uses 8 1/2 fractions. So I'm going to draw 8 1/2 fractions. Let's see. Yep, he's drawing circles. So there's 1/2, 2 halves, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here's half, 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 half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I drew it. So how many whole circles do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Peter makes 4 whole circles by using 8 halves. Number 3, circle the fraction on the number line that is the same as 1 whole. Draw a box around the fraction that is the same as 2 wholes. So I'm looking at this number line and I'm noticing that it is divided into fourths. So each part is going to be 1/4. So what would be 1 whole? That would be 4/4. I'm gonna go, there's 4/4, so I draw a circle on around 4/4, and that's the same as 1 whole. And I can tell because from 0 to 1 are going to be 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a whole group, 4 to 4. Draw a box around the fraction that is the same as 2 wholes. So 0 to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. 4 more parts will give us 2 whole groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8/4 is the same as 2 whole groups. Number 4, it says each square is 1 whole. Write a whole number and a fraction for the parts that are shaded. Well, the whole thing is shaded, so how many whole squares do I have? 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to write that right away. Another way I could say this is I could count the parts. Each whole is divided into how many parts? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's my denominator. Those are the parts of a whole. How many do I have altogether? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 12 pieces that are sized 1/4. Remember a unit fraction. And we can double check our work because 12 divided by 4 equals 3. Number 5, how many whole squares do I have? 1, 2. Okay, how many parts is each square divided into? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that number goes on the bottom. So now how many pieces do I have that are the size of 1/8? I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pieces. And 16 divided by 8 equals 2, so it works. Number 6, Belle runs 16 times around a track that measures 1/4 of a mile long. Write a fraction that shows the distance that Belle runs. How many whole miles does Belle run? So the question is, how many whole miles does Belle run? Okay, great. So if Belle runs 16 times, that means I'm going to have 16 parts of a track. So the track is 1/4 of a mile long. So if she runs around 16 times, I'm gonna go here to here. Careful, Juna. That's 1 time around the track. So I'm gonna do this 16 more times. So you draw that with me. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so basically I just drew a number line with 16 parts because she ran around the track 16 times. Now I know the size of the track is 1/4 of a mile long. So if I just count it, this would be 1/4. This would be 2/4, I'm just counting, 3/4, 4/4, and that is 1 whole. So I'm gonna circle that. That is 1 whole. Can you see what I'm doing, kinda? Then I'm gonna do 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4. That is another 4/4, so that's another whole mile. So I'm gonna circle it. So how many miles has she run so far? 1, 2. So now I'm gonna write 9/4, 10/4, 11/4, and 12/4. That's another 4/4. So that's another whole mile. So far she's ran 3 miles. 13/4, 14/4, 15/4, and finally 16/4 for her 16 times around a track. That's another 1, 2, 3, 4/4. So that's another whole mile. So how many miles does she run? 1, 2, 3, 4 whole miles. That was a fun one. Another way we could check that, we could say 16 times around a track that measures 1/4 of a mile long. We could just write, oh, that's 16/4, because I'm going to have 16 parts that are all the size of 1/4, which is what I drew out down here. What is 16 divided by 4? 4. Is that the same thing that we got? Yeah, so it works out. Okay, yay. All right, I hope this was okay. I know at first, at the start of that lesson, I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be a tricky one. But then as we worked through it, I hope it started making more sense. Let me know how it went, and good luck. Make sure you're doing your daily calendar math. Make sure you're doing your homework. I went to the school yesterday and I picked up all the work that you guys have done, and I am so proud of you. Thank you for turning in your work. Thank you for working so hard these past weeks. I know it's been a long time, but you guys are doing amazing, so keep up the great work. Love your guts, and I'll see you later.